I'm blowing up like you thought I would. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. And if you don't know, I'm blowing up like you thought I would. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. Promise it's all good. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. And if you don't know, I'm blowing up like you thought I would. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. It's all good. Blow up like I'm blowing up like you thought I would. I'm like you thought I would. And if you don't know, I'm blowing up like you thought.
Welcome back to the Republic of Arsenal. We're live. Massive game ahead coming up in the Europa League. Villarreal against Arsenal. This has been billed, I think, yet again as Arsenal's biggest game of the season. It seems that every game we play is being billed as our biggest game of the season. But I think, given the fact that our league form is, pretty much done, dusted, out the window, doesn't really count for much anymore. I think people are sick listening to me saying that our league form doesn't count for much. So it's kind of make or break now. We're in the semi-finals against Villarreal, as I said. Massive game. I'm joined by two absolutely amazing guests here today, who I will introduce momentarily. But just before I do, please do remember, if you're watching, hit that like button. If you haven't already, please do hit the subscribe button. So we're going to get straight into it now, and I'm going to introduce my guests here today. So first of all, you know his face. If you follow Arsenal channels, you'll know who this man is. My very good friend, Daniel, aka the Blind Gooner. So Daniel, I finally got you on the channel, and I'm absolutely delighted to have you here. So how are you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad. Listen, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow's game. It's a massive game, and the nerves are starting to kick in now. But yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah, great stuff. As I said, it's been a while coming. I've made a few appearances on your channel, so it's really good to have you here. And as I said, look, you're definitely a familiar face in the Arsenal YouTube circle. If for some strange reason there's any people on the channel that do not recognize Daniel, definitely get over and check out his channel, The Blind Gooner. Unbelievable content. One of my favorite channels. And as I said, when I got the invite onto your channel the first time, I was kind of going, oh, hang on here. Has he got the right guy here? Like he wants me on this channel, because you've had some serious guests. And before we wrap up here today, I will get you to give a shout out and tell people about the guests, because you listed off a few names the other day, and I was kind of going, you know what, I already felt special getting an invite onto your channel, but when I heard the list of guests you have lined up, I was going, okay, I feel even better about myself now. This is a who's who of YouTube content creators. So we will definitely give a plug later. And also joined by another guest. Again, it's another massive guest. And look, as I always say, I love to get the perspective from opposition fans, and I kind of surprise myself each and every time I manage to find a fan from a different club willing to come on. And I've done it again. We found ourselves a Villarreal fan, and not just a Villarreal fan. A guy who absolutely knows his stuff, a football journalist and author. And I will let you introduce yourself. So, Jamie, thanks so much for giving us some time here today. So, if you wouldn't mind, just give yourself a little introduction there, who you are, what you do, and tell us how you became a Villarreal fan.
Yeah, sure. Happy to be here, and thank you for having me. Like Daniel, looking forward to the game on Thursday, and I'm a little bit nervous as well. So I sort of got in touch with Villarreal, if you like, when I sort of travelled to the village of Villarreal in 2008, I think, on a sort of school trip kind of thing. Where we got to play on the training grounds and meet players and that sort of thing. And from there, sort of developed a soft spot. I think it wasn't until a while after then I sort of honed down and properly started supporting Villarreal, sort of at a hometown club as well. But yeah, I think certainly in recent years, for one reason or another, just sort of got closer and closer. And now it's the club I absolutely follow. And yeah, that's sort of my background. And sort of in work, I write a bit about Arsenal. So I write for Football London, so I cover sort of Arsenal, Chelsea, and Spurs, sort of as a trends writer. So I'm sort of got insight into both sides, if you like, ahead of Thursday's game.
So you've already got a little bit of a head start. You've got a bit of insider information on Arsenal as well. So not only have you got the expertise on Villarreal, you've also got a bit of Arsenal insight. So if myself and Daniel provide a bit of our insight, you might be able to counteract an even better. But it's going to be a good chat though. It's going to be a good, interesting one. Want to give a shout out as well. See, there's a couple of guys in the chat, James, Dan. We've got Dave as well. There's a couple more in there. So big shout out. Thanks so much for joining. As I said, lads, if you haven't hit that like button, please do. So lads, we're gonna jump into this now. Thursday night, 8 o'clock. Arsenal away from home. We're in Spain. First of all, Daniel, what do you make of the fact that we're the away side? Are you going to look at that as an advantage for us with an opportunity to get the away goals, or would you have preferred us to start the tie at home?
Do you know, that's a tricky one because it's always risky playing away from home first, because you've got to really start the game well if you're the first team to play away from home. Because as we've seen in the last round with Slavia Prague, our home form, we kind of messed it up. And then we always knew that we had the away leg. Oh, you know, it's in our hands. The away team always has the advantage in these knockout competitions just because of the away goals rule. And I think that actually I prefer the away fixture to be second, just because if we do mess up, we know that we've got the advantage in the second leg as the away team. So actually, we've got to go out and maybe try and get a healthy lead in this tie if we can, and then our home form, we've just basically got to stop them from scoring, because they'll have the away advantage. So yeah, I'm more of I prefer the away game to be second.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you there. I guess I'm a bit concerned about Arsenal because, as we know, our home form hasn't been the best, and especially in this competition. If you look back at even last season, you know, we went to Olympiacos and we managed to get the result out there in Greece. It was when we came back to the Emirates is when we absolutely blew it. So yeah, like that, I guess I'm not too concerned about playing away first. You know, I know a lot of people would like to have the home advantage first. I don't mind Arsenal having the kind of away advantage to begin with, but I do worry that if we don't do enough out there, I do worry about when we come back to the Emirates, because it's definitely not a fortress by any means. And if we go out there and we don't come back with a healthy lead, as you said, Daniel, or, you know, we go over there with a draw, I'm not overly confident that we're going to finish the job at home. But Jamie, what do you make of the fact that Villarreal will host, first of all?
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with Daniel. I think I'd much rather be away second leg, just because of the fact of you know what you need. Listen, at this is at the earlier stages of the competition, you might think if you lose sort of 2-3-0 at home in the first leg, it's game over. But we're talking about obviously Europa League semi-finals. I don't think any team's going to win either leg 2 or 3-0. So I think from the first leg, it's going to still be a wide open game. And then you go to the second leg knowing that what you need, and you knowing that away goals count too. You know, so if Villarreal pick up a 1-0 win at home in the first leg, you know that you go to the second leg and you probably only need one goal. Just as a sort of an example result. And even, you know, if it's 1-1 first leg, you'd still fancy Villarreal to go and score some goals at the Emirates. That you said Arsenal's home form has been poor. So I think just the factor of knowing what you need and having those away goals, I think as long as you can get through what probably is going to be a very tight first leg anyway, at this stage of competition particularly, I'd rather be away second leg.
Yeah, definitely, that's fair. And look, there's a common theme coming into this one, and I guess a bit of added spice to the tie, a bit of added incentive in the fact that we've both got common ground with Unai Emery, Arsenal's former coach, Unai Emery. Villarreal's current coach, Unai Emery, and this has been billed as, Arteta versus Emery. For Arsenal fans especially, I think we've got this there's such division between the fan base. There's a lot of people. I think it's probably fair to say, I think most Arsenal fans will be in agreement that Emery's time was probably up. I think the problem you have is now, because Arteta hasn't exactly convinced a lot of the fan base, there's that comparison now with Unai Emery. Well, maybe, Unai Emery was hard done by at Arsenal. Maybe he should have got more time. Why has Arteta been given the time that Unai Emery probably wasn't given? Daniel, I know I've been on your channel and I sort of know your feelings towards Arteta and that, but just for anybody that may not have kind of got your side of things, the Emery and Arteta kind of debate, what way are you kind of leaning? Do you feel, Arteta is maybe been given a bit more than Emery got in terms of maybe backing from the board and with the fan base and that, do you feel Emery maybe should have got a bit longer in the job?
This is a really difficult question to answer, because Emery, when he took over at Arsenal, he started off really well. He had that 22 games unbeaten run. And it's, he was doing really well. But then when you look at the latter part of the first season, is full season at Arsenal, it kind of fell apart, but it fell apart because of his own making. So, he kind of undone all his work. He'd got into a position where, listen, there's some fans that weren't fully behind him. But then, most notably, you look at the Crystal Palace game, where we if we'd have won that game, we would have been in the top 4. You look at that game, you look at Brighton, you look at his team selections, and he kind of just lost confidence. Then, listen, take the Europa League final out of it, because I think the players just massively let him down on that occasion. But then it kind of set the theme for going into the first half of last season before he lost his job, where he was just playing players out of position. He kind of, as if he forgot how to be a manager. And then ultimately he lost his job. You can look at the fact that he wasn't fully backed in the transfer window like that Arteta's been backed. But it's a very weird question with Emery, because, listen, Emery has done better, in my opinion, than Arteta. Just because you look at Arteta, we've lost 13 times in the Premier League this season, which is embarrassing as an Arsenal fan. And considering that the board have backed Arteta in the same not in the same way that they backed Emery. You look at Emery, he almost got us to the top 4. Yes, he kind of messed up the top 4, messed up the Europa League final. Whether it was his fault or not, it still goes down on his record as part of being the Arsenal manager. But we have to also understand that Emery's, apart from the time that he managed Arsenal, his record in the Europa League is second to none. He's won the competition. I think it's 3 times he's won it. He won it there with Sevilla. So yeah, we've got to actually just look at Emery and maybe where I stand on it is possibly I listen. Me and you, Anthony, have spoken many a time on my channel about Arteta, and I'm not fully convinced by Arteta just because he has been backed more than Emery and he's still not getting the results. I know a lot of people allude to the players being the problem. Listen, we could bang on that conversation all day long. But I still think when you've had the money spent on you that you've had, you need to be doing better with the squad. And let's not forget that Arteta's got a better squad than what Emery had. Emery done better with worse players. You look at the likes of Stefan Lichtsteiner, Alex Iwobi, Just to name a few of the players, Squadron Mustafi. When you look at those players and what Emery done, you have to say that on paper, although Emery kind of messed it up for himself, on paper Emery was got more success than Arteta. So it's going to be a very interesting battle this on Thursday and next week, because you just don't know what Arsenal are going to turn up. And we've spoke about this ourselves, haven't we, Anthony? We've said that the biggest threat to us is us. It's not Villarreal. It's not Unai Emery. The biggest problem is us.
Definitely. Yeah, that's been the theme of this season. In the majority of games, it's I don't think it's being disrespectful to the opposition, but I think you're coming into games and you're sort of saying, you know what, before we even worry about what their forward is going to do or their winger, we're kind of going, what are our centre halves going to do? What's our midfield going to do? So automatically it almost feels like we're at a disadvantage coming into games. And just for anyone who's watching and wondering why my face has become so big, my webcam stopped there, so I had to swap it around. I'm having all sorts of technical issues here.
Sure.
So apologies if I frightened anybody there, jumping into the camera. So
do you know the thing is, Anthony, right? Do you know the thing is, as well, if you're a Villarreal fan, and if I was a Villarreal fan right now, I'd be sitting here thinking, we know that Arsenal's going to have maybe the majority of the possession. We know that Arsenal's probably going to have, a good number of chances.
Yeah.
But you guys, like Villarreal, is going to get chances. Mm-hmm. They're going to. If I was a Villarreal fan, I'd be sitting there thinking, do you know what? We might not have the lion's share of the ball. We might not have the rub of the green. But Arsenal always give us chances. They give it. Look, we gave Everton chance. They won. We've done it countless times this season.
Definitely. Yeah.
And easy gifts, easy chances. Not just. We've gifted you chances. We've virtually put the ball in our own net for some of these chances. It's kind of, and it's so frustrating because it's kind of like, as a team, and this is the way I look at it, we get ourselves into good positions, and then we're just like, this is too easy. Let's for the neutral point of view, let's give the opposition a goal, and that's what it feels like. It really does feel like that because, we've got to, everybody's out there worrying about Emery, everybody's out there worrying about the Villarreal forward, but I'd just look closer to home. Do you know what I mean? We've got to get before we start worrying about Villarreal, we've got to get our own house in order before we start looking at other people's.
I completely agree. Yeah, as you said, we literally have been putting the ball in our own net. The last game, our goalkeeper Bernd Leno, unfortunately got his name on the score sheet down the wrong end of the pitch, and that's twice this season. We've done that against Everton. We've lost to Everton twice this season, and they completed a domestic double overs for the first time in 35 years. And both games, we scored the winning goal for them in our own net. We've done it against Burnley, Aubameyang own goal, and then against Burnley again when Xhaka might as well put the ball in his own net when he played the ball right across to Chris Wood. So time and time again, we're still making these errors, making these mistakes. Jamie, again, as you said, you do write for Football.London, so you do cover a lot of Arsenal. Your kind of comparison, I suppose, Arteta and Emery, what do you make? You've got first-hand experience now of Unai Emery. What did you kind of make of Emery's time while at Arsenal? And have you seen anything in Emery now that's different at Villarreal, or is he still largely the same guy that Arsenal had? And a lot of us used to kind of put it down to maybe the communication isn't there, maybe he can't quite get his point across. Has he evolved as a manager since he left Arsenal and went to Villarreal, or do you still see the same kind of guy? It's just things are being understood a little bit better now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring the sort of communication up. I think, I say this as sort of someone who's part of the media myself, but I think in general the media was very unfair to Emery during his time at London, in London and at Arsenal. I think some of the sort of mimicking of his accent and things, I think it went way too far. And when you say he sort of lost the plot almost at the end. I almost think that was a result of sort of difficulties he faced off the pitch with fans and with the media. But I agree with Daniel, to be fair, and yourself. I think he did all right at Arsenal. I think he obviously went downhill towards the end. But you look at how Arteta has done with a similar squad, plus probably some better players as well, and he's not done any better. I think Emery left them in 8th. I think they finished in 8th last season, and the season before, obviously, he got sort of right to the edge of Champions League places, which is, being realistic, probably where Arsenal are as a club. I don't want to sort of offend any fans, but I know sort of with the rivalry of Tottenham, but let's be realistic, they have a better squad at the moment. And so, you probably are just on the edge of the Champions League, probably where you should be finishing until sort of there's more investment on sort of the pitch and transfers. But so I think he did all right, to be fair. I think he's done, listening to this early in his reign at Villarreal. But he's the same Emery in that he's very clear in his ideas and things like that. I think he's got much more plan probably than what he did sort of at least in his sort of second season at Arsenal. And he's got a clear mandate at Villarreal to win a trophy, and the club's never won a major trophy. So league form has suffered a little bit as a result of going for Europa League, but that was the sort of criteria that was set for him at the end of the day, is go and win a Europa League and get as far as competition. And so far so good on that front. And we've hung in there in the league, sort of just on the edge of Europa League places because of the sort of new Conference League and things like that. But so he's done well at Villarreal, and I think looking back on the time at Arsenal as well, he did pretty well. It's just, I think, factors off the pitch also sort of influenced his latter spell, his latter time there, and perhaps was a bit unlucky. But in fairness, looking back, with all that considered, you'd probably say maybe it was his time to leave at the end of the day, and probably was best for both clubs, albeit Arsenal probably haven't seen the benefit of it just yet.
Yeah, it was interesting you said there, kind of like about the media and how they were with Emery, and he almost did become like a bit of a joke at times. The whole good evening thing. I think it started off as a bit of a fun kind of fun thing, but it did go a bit far at times. And yeah, at times I did feel for him. You know what I mean? I did feel he got a bit of a bad rap by the press and that. And I do think at times, maybe Arteta gets off a little bit lighter. There's still plenty of criticism of Arteta, of course there is, especially from the fan base. But I think because Arteta speaks well, like he looks the part, he speaks well, he ticks a lot of the boxes. He's a bit more, I guess, what you'd want in the face of the media, and I think he gets away with he can articulate his points a bit better, and I think that gets him off the hook a little bit. Now, Daniel, as Arsenal fans, we listen to some of the things he says, and of course we sort of say, you're telling us one thing, but we're seeing something else. But I think in terms of the media, maybe Arteta gets off a lot lighter than Emery did. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, not just the media, some of the fan base as well. Let's be real here. Some of the fan base, they criticised, and this is what I don't get. They criticised Emery for a lot less. Emery, listen, and I get why Emery got criticism, because he kind of messed it up for himself, and it all fell apart towards the end of his full season and then half season. But I felt a little bit maybe the biggest thing with Emery is, and I applaud him for coming over to try and speak in our language, speak the English language, and coming over and listen. He gave it a bloody good go, to be frank, and he did really well. But the biggest thing that I thought with Emery is I just wonder, he might have done a little bit better and might have got his message across to the players if he'd had an interpreter there who can actually translate. Because you watch some of Emery's press conferences, and even I didn't understand him at times. And I know that it was not because he had bad points to say. It was just because he didn't fully he couldn't fully speak the English language. Now he could he spoke very well, but when it comes to articulating a point, and I got the feeling that he was trying to get his message across, but this communication issue was an issue, and I noticed it. So I could sort of see why it fell apart with some of the players, and I know there's players at Arsenal that speak speak Spanish and that. And listen, it's not the same. It's not the same of having a sort of like a relay. So I do feel a little bit kind of sorry for Unai Emery in that sense. And it's not surprising that he's fitted in well at Villarreal, in his own native language, and who could speak Spanish, and there it's not surprising that he's doing better at Villarreal, because I feel the communication was a big part of his downfall at Arsenal.
Yeah, Jamie, look, I don't know what your overall understanding of the Spanish language is, but the fact that you're involved with journalism and that, I always got the impression that Emery, he is an intelligent guy, and as Daniel said, he was a bit unlucky because he was trying to kind of articulate points that he couldn't quite translate into English. Would you have a better understanding from some of the stuff he says in the Spanish media? Is he that kind of a guy? Is he quite articulate with his instructions and that? Because obviously to us, we were getting kind of the basics and that, but I'd imagine he's quite a tactical kind of guy, and I imagine he does speak very well and is very intelligent. So would you have much? Would you be able to break down much of his Spanish kind of conferences and that? And would he be that kind of a coach, or is he quite basic? Because unfortunately, as Arsenal fans, we only got the kind of basics from him. Would he be a hard coach to understand on a tactical basis, I should point out, for his players?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I think in press conferences, we very rarely see sort of in-depth tactical breakdowns in press conferences and things like that anyway, whether it's before a game or after the game. I think even some of the best are quite reluctant to go into that, and it's partly on the media as well. I think the news lines are sort of much better than the in-depth tactical stuff, so the sort of questions aren't really asked anyway. On a general basis, you get the odd one, but for that reason, it's difficult to say how sort of in depth he is. I think I should imagine behind closed doors is a very different sort of a different thing. As someone I've sort of learned Spanish for the last couple of years, I can speak it sort of conversationally. I think it's more difficult to get into sort of the in-depth, detailed stuff. If I was to, I could have a conversation with someone in Spanish, but I think if I was to sort of break into football tactics in depth, might be a bit more difficult. So I think there's probably a point there. But he's an intelligent man. He speaks, I think, 4 languages. And as Daniel said, he speaks English to a very decent degree for someone who's for his second or third language. So it is difficult to know unless you're sort of a player, I think, behind closed doors. But yeah, I think he is technical behind the scenes. He's a very detail oriented in terms of he speaks a lot about concentration and that sort of thing. And that's the one thing he sort of hounds his players for, is losing concentration. As always, as the club always has, in terms of dominating possession and looking to attack. We're very fortunate to have a sort of top striker in Europe in terms of João Moreno. So I don't imagine you get to that point without being very detail orientated. I don't think you get to this stage of the competition, without being that either. I know Arteta's had his critics, but I think we all know has come from the sort of Pep Guardiola tree that he's very detail orientated and wants sort of perfection as his sort of godfather, if you like, Pep Guardiola does. So yeah, I think they all are that way inclined, but it's difficult to say just from press conferences whether that's the case and whether there would have been difficulties there. But I think if you'd have had real trouble getting that across to his players at Arsenal, he probably would have gotten interpreted in. But also I think he did have a good full season there, to be fair. So I think while things went downhill afterwards, there may have been other factors at play.
Yeah, it's something that I often wonder, especially with the current Arsenal group that we have. We've gone from Unai Emery, and as you said, like he does come across. He's an intelligent guy, quite a tactical coach, and maybe the communication was difficult. But I also kind of look at Arteta now, and again from the kind of Pep Guardiola school of coaching. Again, it's going to be a lot of kind of hands-on tactical kind of stuff. And I often wonder, like, I know Arteta can speak the language and get his point across a lot better than Unai Emery could, but I do wonder, Daniel, with this Arsenal squad and the overall football IQ, have we got the players who have that football intelligence to be able to understand what these articulate, tactical-minded coaches actually want? Or, I know this is probably it's a little bit off topic, but just kind of on the topic of the coaches, could this Arsenal squad benefit from a more basic kind of a coach? The guys like Arteta and Emery, are they a bit too tactical minded for what our group is capable of, or do you think there's a bit more to it?
Do you know, that's a very interesting question, because look, we've certainly got players that we should. When you look at the players, we should be doing better than what we are. But in terms of is Arteta too tactical for these players? It's very interesting, because you look at games, certainly back in October when we played Man City, and he overfought it, and you could see that with his team selection and the way he played. And then you look at other games where you're just like, why are you overthinking it? Why aren't you just sticking to what worked? You're trying to do too much. So it's very, very interesting. I personally think it's a combination of both. I think, yes, we have a lot of players that basic training would do them the world of good. But listen, we have enough in this squad to be doing a lot better than what we are. And we're not, for whatever reason. And Arteta has to take some criticism for that. He's got, we've seen it time and time again with players. He's not helped himself out, by playing players who have just let him down time and time again, when there's players on the bench who have put in better performances, but yet they get benched. So I think it's a combination of both, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's completely fair. It's just something I always kind of wonder. Are we sort of overcomplicating things at Arsenal? I sort of use Pepe as an example, and for the longest time, Pepe has shown little glimpses of what he can do, what he's all about, but it's just the whole consistency factor doesn't seem to be there with him. And it actually sounded, I was almost embarrassed saying it. I said I was on a channel, and this is going back months ago, and people kind of looked at me as if I was like, what are you talking about? And I just said, maybe instead of playing him on the right-hand side and asking him to do all of these different jobs, maybe just stick him on the left. Let him play direct play, bomb down the line, swing the ball in, keep it simple, bring him back to basics. And I think when he has featured on the left-hand side, I think he benefits from it, just going back to basics. And I think with some players, you just need to bring them back to basics, get them to master the simple stuff instead of overcomplicating and giving too much instruction and too many jobs. I think you'll probably get a better performance.
Do you're using Pepe as a brilliant example, and I think it's Pepe is the perfect example to use, because he has performed better on the left. I've been saying this for ages, that you put Pepe on the left, he massively performs. Now, I personally believe that's down to a few factors. One, that he's got a decent fullback behind him that actually does his job. I think Pepe in front of Bellerin just doesn't work, just because Bellerin is next to useless. I have no idea why he even features in some of our games. But you put him in front of Kieran Tierney. Tierney's a hard-working left back who does his job, and he also supports Pepe going forward. But we have to also remember with Pepe that when he has performed, Arteta's just gone and taken him out the team. So consistency, I know people bang on about consistency, and yes, Pepe does need to get more consistent, but I think it's a little bit unfair when he's gaining consistency and then Arteta just hooks him off and goes back to what he knows to be his default system with his default group of players. So we have to bear that in mind with Pepe as well, that it's not completely his fault when it comes to trying to get consistency.
Yeah, I've always kind of said that about Pepe. He would definitely benefit from having, a good solid run, and like that, he doesn't strike me as being the most confident player. I think he's quite a confidence-based player. When he does something well, and you see him grow into a game. When he has a run of decent performances, you see him start to grow as a player. But when he's not getting that, it takes him a bit of time to get going. Just before I move on from this, Unai Emery Arteta comparison, I'm just going to throw up on the screen there, as you can see. This is Arteta versus Emery as Arsenal manager head to head. It doesn't make for great reading, really, for Arteta. When you look at it, he's got 53 Premier League games, 22 wins, 13 draws, 18 defeats, and he's got a total of 79 points as Arsenal manager. Now, when you look at Unai Emery's reign, he's got 51 games, 25 wins, 13 draws, 13 losses, and he got 88 points. So he's had 2 games less than Arteta, and he's got 3 more wins and 5 defeats less. Doesn't really make for great reading, does it? And again, when we go back to did he get a fair run? And again, look, I'm not saying I agree with Emery being given the boot that time, and I'm not saying I agree with Arteta having got the job, but I have been quite not an Arteta in. Daniel, I've explained this to you over and over again. I understand kind of the size of the job and the task at hand, but Daniel, looking at that and seeing the comparison and sort of the belief that a lot of people have in Arteta, and the fact that I think everybody sort of was in agreement Emery's time was up. But when you look at that, it doesn't really make for great reading, and it doesn't exactly fill you with confidence, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I've never understood the comparison in the sense of how can you sack Emery for his record, but yet Arteta, his job's not even under question, which kind of says to me that, and I've said this for a long time, when Emery was appointed, you look at the people that are in charge now at the board. When Emery was appointed, it was done. I think it was maybe Ivan Gazidis was the driving force before he left to bring in Emery, and then obviously we had the situation with Ralston. I kind of feel like now that it was never the current board's intention to give Emery time. I think they was always looking for the first excuse to get him out the door, and I think they did. When results weren't going our way, they hooked him. They hooked him, like we've not seen before. But with Arteta, it's kind of like the club are impervious to criticism of Arteta. Like they don't seem to question his job, which kind of says to me that they've got one of two things: that they either have a plan for Arteta in terms of are they going to really give him money in the summer, or were they not bothered about the results because of listen, I don't want to go into this whole thing because, listen, it's been dominating. Did they know about this Super League back then? And maybe they were like, well, what's the point in sacking him because we're going to be in a completely different league? So they probably just thought, well, okay, we'll put up with these bad results because we know that could be potentially happening. Now that's all fallen through. Is their mindset towards Arteta going to change because they're not going to have that luxury of getting in there? I don't know. It's all speculation, but I've wondered that over the last week, with everything that's gone on in the world of football and especially at Arsenal. I've wondered why Arteta is still in a job when Emery got hooked for a lot less.
Yeah. You're definitely not the only one. I think a lot of people are wondering that. And look, I'll be honest. As I said, I've been very I think I've been quite kind to Arteta as well. I'm still as you know, I'm still not calling for Arteta out because, again, as I keep stressing, I'm fully aware of the overall job that needs to be done, and I'm trying to look at some positives in that. So, but I'm going to throw up there's the two league tables there. Look, as we know, we've said time and time again, Arsenal are 10th currently, as you can see there. It doesn't make for very good reading. But Jamie, from your perspective there, Villarreal sitting 7th in the table. There's not a lot of difference between when you look at Arsenal and Villarreal. Villarreal have 49 points in 7th place after playing 33 games. Arsenal played 33 games and we got 46 points. In terms of Villarreal and La Liga, is this, kind of what you were expecting from Villarreal this season? Were you expecting them to be kind of more in the mix for a top 4 kind of a spot? And is Emery under the same kind of scrutiny and maybe pressure from the fan base for sitting in 7th at the moment?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think, the sort of average place, if you like, for Villarreal in recent years has been sort of 5th, as it was last year. And the sort of aim is always sort of push for that 4th Champions League spot. But as I mentioned earlier, the mandate for Emery was to come in and win a trophy. He got to the quarterfinals of the Copa del Rey and obviously in the semi-finals Europa League. So that's a sort of trade-off, if you like, and I think that's very much been proven in form. Form was very good. Well, saying that we've drawn too many games is the sort of result of the league form. Don't lose an awful many, but I think the sort of the big thing you've learned is that Europa League has taken a toll on league form. I think everyone's just accepted that, and fair enough, because you want that trophy, you want to get in the Europa League final. And I think if he can get to the final and then he finishes sort of 6th, if you can finish 6th, that would be great. Obviously, the 7th is now Conference League spot because of UEFA's funky plans. But yeah, if he finished 6th and get the final, that would represent a good season, whether they won the Europa League or not. And I think you have to look as well as it's been an ultra competitive La Liga this season, as you can see from the table there. All the top 4 have a chance of winning the league. I think Sevilla have won, 7 of the last 8 to pull away from the top, the 5th, 6th, 7th place. Real Sociedad fell out of Europa League a couple of rounds ago, so they've had less football to play. Real Betis haven't had that issue, and that sort of showed into, because Villarreal was sort of 5th for much of the season as well and dropped off a little bit. So I think it's sort of predictable when you're going to put all these sort of eggs in one basket. It's predictable the league form suffers a bit. Given the motives of the club at board level and even at fan level, I think it's perfectly acceptable that's happened. Albeit we'd still obviously like to see them get up into those sort of 6th and 7th, 5th and 6th place to get a Europa League spot next season if you can't win the trophy and obviously qualify for the Champions League. There have been slip-ups. I think the league table is reflective of the fact they've lost the last 2. Played Barcelona on Sunday, which was a predictable loss, albeit a very competitive game. And then there was a real slip-up in the week with the loss to Alaves, who down the bottom there and fighting for their lives. So, if you're going to compare the 2 seasons, I think as much as a point sort of doesn't tell the story. If you've had a much better season than Arsenal, there hasn't been the sort of, there's been the odd down loss sort of, and I think Arsenal lost to Fulham the other week, and there've been some real disappointing defeats. It hasn't felt like that. The sensations have been different for Villarreal. But yeah, I think, Europa League, I think won 11 of 13 games and drawn the other. So I think it's been very dominant in Europe. That's been the focus, and that's just showed really ultimately.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is, as you said there, in the European form, I'm going to just throw up, that's the run up leading up to this game. Daniel, as we saw, look, I think the group stage is kind of a given. You sort of know you're going to get through the groups. Again, no disrespect, but like the group stages, we were able to put out kind of the young players and kind of the fringe players, and we got through pretty easy. So it's kind of the knockout stages are where you kind of, I guess, you kind of look at in this competition. We made hard work of it for ourselves. Benfica, Olympiacos and Slavia Prague along the way to get us here to Villarreal. And looking there at Villarreal, they had Salzburg, Dynamo Kiev, and then Dynamo Zagreb. Yeah, Daniel, do you read too much into this? You know, the run to the final. I've seen a couple of people say, you know, Arsenal have had it fairly easy. But what do you make of that run we had there? You know, Benfica, Olympiacos, Slavia Prague. Are you looking at that and kind of going, we've had a pretty handy run up to this now, or what do you think? Do you think some of those wins along the way are being a bit underplayed?
We have had an easy time of it, and we got the easy side of this draw as well. You know, compared to Man United, listen, everybody's tipping Arsenal, Man United to meet in the final. And when you look at the two teams, you know, we've got the easier draw against Villarreal. Listen, I think United have got it tougher against Roma. So we have been favourable. The draw's been favourable to us. You know, it's been really, really. You know, we can't really ask for anything more with the draw. Before that, Olympiacos, Slavia Prague, and Benfica. Listen, I alluded to it earlier. I said our problems have come from within our own team, not Benfica, not Olympiacos, and certainly not Slavia Prague. The problems have come, and the reason why those ties, you know, when you look at the results and you analyze each game, they've happened because we've made them happen. And I'm not disrespecting Benfica, Olympiacos, or Slavia Prague. In no way, you know, they're decent teams, but we've gifted them chances to, you know, certainly against Benfica. We were so lucky to get through that tie. We were so lucky. So it's a difficult one, you know, because there's no easy game, because we make it that way. We don't make it easy for ourselves.
That is certainly the truth. Jamie, I'm going to ask your opinion on Villarreal's run up to the game now with Arsenal. But just before I do, there's a question. Big shout out to Rich that's in there from over and over again. Are Villarreal the only side, you know, off the top of your head to win all 6 knockout games? The only side left that won all 6?
That's a good question. You can see from the graph there.
Very put you on the spot.
I think off the top of my head, that would seem right. In terms of comparing to other sides, certainly the best.
Looking at it there, actually, we could probably see it ourselves.
Certainly a team with the best form across the competition. No one else has won as many games in this season's competition. Oh, that's a fact, because they've won 11 of the 12 and they've not lost. I think. I'm not sure how many teams have gone unbeaten in the whole competition so far. Certainly, if it's not only Villarreal, it's certainly only a couple. But yeah, certainly the team with the best form, and also I think the team with the most wins in the history of the competition as well.
Oh, really? Oh, so no extra pressure for Arsenal anyway. But look, we've been breaking records all season. Unfortunately, the wrong ones. So whether we're going to beat that one and stop and beat their winning record, I don't know. I don't even know how close we are. But looking at that there, in the knockout stages, Villarreal, they won both legs against Salzburg. They won both legs against Dynamo Kiev, and it looks like they won both legs against Zagreb. So definitely the form team coming into this. But like Daniel, now I'm guilty myself of kind of looking at the tie and saying maybe this has been a bit favourable for Arsenal, as in, you know, maybe we could have played Man United and we could have played Roma. But at the same time, I've also, I guess, been guilty of looking at kind of the teams, my famous phrase, on paper, and sort of saying on paper, you know, I'm looking at the Roma squad, I'm looking at the Man United squad, and maybe I'm looking at the Villarreal squad, and I may be underplaying them a little bit. But now that I'm really looking at this and the form coming into it, I kind of, my perspective is kind of swaying a little bit here. But what I have said all along is, although I believe maybe Villarreal, again, on paper, had one of the weaker squads, I definitely believe they have the best manager for this competition that you could possibly have. Like, he's got the track record. He's got the trophies in his cabinet. He brought Arsenal to the final. He's already got Villarreal to the semi-final. So definitely you've got the best guy you could have in that seat in this point of the competition. But yeah, look, we're going to talk a little bit now about players coming into this game. Arsenal are going to be missing a couple of players, Daniel. I think for us, the most important, well, actually, do you know what? The most important could be Kieran Tierney at left back. It probably shouldn't be. It should probably be our attacking players. But Kieran Tierney, absolutely vital. He's going to be gone at left back. What are you going to do at left back if you're Mikel Arteta? Are you going to stick with Granit Xhaka? Because I'll be honest, I could be completely butchering this name, but the winger, is it Chukwueze? Something along those lines. That guy has a lot of pace. And I think Granit Xhaka kind of got by at left back because we played Sheffield United, we played Fulham, we played Slavia Prague. He got a bit found out against Richarlison for Everton, a guy who had a lot more pace than what he's come up against. I would be very concerned about Xhaka at left back. What are your feelings on Xhaka? And then from an attacking sense, maybe it's going to be Nketiah. Would you go Martinelli, Balogun maybe?
It's interesting because I've seen a lot of reports this morning, and especially Charles Watts tweeting that apparently Kieran Tierney, Lacazette and Aubameyang are in contention to play tomorrow. I don't know whether you've read those reports.
No. Unfortunately, I only caught the link saying David Luiz could be back.
Yeah. So this morning it's been breaking news, guys. See, I'll bring you guys breaking news. Apparently they could be in contention to play tomorrow, which if that is true, then all three of them are massive pluses.
Would you
massive
play
pluses.
them, though, Daniel? Would you play them having sat out for the last couple of weeks? Would you throw them straight in there?
Well, this is the thing, and this is one of my worries, because Kieran Tierney wasn't tipped to play again this season, and apparently he's fit. And remember back in November before the Tottenham game, Thomas Partey had a very similar thing, and he played and he lasted not very long, and he got hooked off because he was still injured. So this is the interesting thing. Arteta's got a dilemma. Now, me personally, if there's ever a risk to take with these players, it's in the Europa League semi-final, because let's not forget as well, we've got lots riding on this. This isn't just about getting to a final. It's about possibly getting to a final, qualifying for the Champions League. Because remember, if we go out of this competition, that's our season done. And that's arguably probably next season done as well, because they ain't going to spend massive amounts of transfer. They're not going to spend money on players out of Europe. So there's a massive game. These two games are probably, if we win that and get to the final, listen, the final's a different matter. But if we win that and win the competition, it alters the direction of the club, and with finances, it alters that. So if there's ever a game that you want to take risks with these players, it's going to be this one. You're not going to risk these players in a Premier League game when we're sitting 10th and we're closer to Australia than the top four. So that's how far we are away from it. So it's interesting. I would maybe give them half the game. I would give them the first half of the game. I would give them time so that we can maybe try and establish a healthy lead, and then I would hook them off maybe after about 50, 60 minutes. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's a good selection headache. Again, Rich has left in the comment section there. They're not in contention to play. It's Arteta playing mind games with Emery, apparently, which could be the truth as well. You never know. Maybe.
Would you really believe that, though? Do you really believe that? I don't think. Because here's the thing, Arteta's not really one to play. I wouldn't be surprised if these guys start. I wouldn't be surprised if Arteta plays these guys. And don't forget, he's got form. Yeah. Like I alluded to with Thomas Partey, and again with David Luiz. He went ahead and played him. So he's got form for this. a lot of people say, suggesting that it's mind games and stuff. But remember, he's got form for rushing players and playing them back. Remember, he done it against Spurs. He done it. I think it was the Leeds game after the Wolves game. So yeah, he's got form. I wouldn't be surprised to see these guys come in.
Yeah, look, as you said, it's make or break. So I guess if there's a time to take a risk, now is the time to go for it, because, like I said, there's not a lot really to fight for in the league. Just when you get the likes of this happening and you've guys sat out for a while, I keep thinking back to Tottenham, risking Harry Kane in the final. Not that we have any real form players, the likes of Lucas Moura at that time that was dropped, who was on great form, and they stuck Harry Kane in. I'm really sorry to bring up Spurs and Harry Kane. I do apologise. But I kind of look at that and I sort of said you could see how that backfired. But I guess the risk for us is it's different, because we don't really have anyone who's overly on form. It's not as if Granit Xhaka's playing a stormer week in, week out at left back. I guess a 30% fit Kieran Tierney probably still offers you a little bit more in an attacking sense anyway than Granit Xhaka does. But yeah, Jamie, I was looking at the Villarreal side there, and there's plenty of danger men. I'm going to throw just there's a little comparison there. I was looking on the website there, the Europa League website, and you can do this really cool little comparison thing where you can put two players together. And I noticed Moreno is being ranked as the #1 player in the competition. I'm not sure what way they do the ranking and the points, but he is ranked as the #1 player for whatever way you accumulate points. I put him up there against Lacazette, who is ranked as number 9. So again, that's as an Arsenal fan, that's a very concerning kind of comparison. When you look at that, Moreno's he's played 2 games more, but he's a lot more prolific. He's got 6 goals in comparison to Lacazette's 3 goals, 24 attempts in comparison to Lacazette's 10 attempts. So Moreno is definitely going to be a danger man for Arsenal. But who else are you looking at that we should be very, very concerned about?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to compare those 2 players. I mean, yeah, Gerrard's been in incredible form. I think he's got 18 goals in his last 20 games. Across the season, he's got 26 goals and 38 and 34 goal contributions in those 38 games. Only 4 games he hasn't contributed a goal with either a goal or an assist. So very much one of Europe's hottest strikers at the moment. I think Arsenal's top scorers what? I think Lacazette and Aubameyang got 14 each, I think, is it, or something like that. So yeah. You mentioned Samuel Chukwueze. He's a funny one. He's got great pace and a great potential. He's still only 21 years of age. One of those players who was sort of tipped to shoot to the top straight away, and he's probably unfair to say he stagnated, but I think he's got to work on that final product of his. But he's still only 21 years of age. I don't know if you saw the goal he scored against Barcelona on the weekend, but it's a brilliant sort of great footwork, and that pace can really expose Arsenal. Paco Alcacer, he's struggled for form a little bit of late, but still, I think in Europa League he's got a fair amount of goals. He's got 12 goals in goal competitions this season. Again, one of Spain's sort of leading strikers. He's certainly going to the Euros in the summer, I would think. And then even I think a lot of people look at this battle as Villarreal will sort of a real danger to Arsenal up front, but will struggle at the back. But I think it's sort of hugely underestimating the sort of experience that Villarreal have at the back as well. You've got Pau Torres there, who's probably one of the best tipped sort of young defenders in the world. Certainly the best young striker in Spain. He'll start for the Euros alongside Sergio Ramos in the summer. And then alongside him, you've got Raul Albiol, who's got about as experienced as they come. And I think some people have said to me about, I think the second leg against Slavia Prague with Arsenal, where they sort of run riot, and that's sort of something that Villarreal sort of should be scared of, if you like. But I think if you put it into context, I think Villarreal probably had one of the worst defensive halves of football they've had all season in the first half against Barcelona on Sunday, and a Barcelona side who were in extremely good form and hunting down that title. And they still went into half-time 2-1, and that's how the game finished, and they dominated the second half. So I think if Villarreal can cope with Barcelona at 100% while defending pretty badly, I think they probably feel safe against an Arsenal side with absolutely no disrespect to them, have struggled this season, even against sort of poorer sides. And you said about Arsenal's run to the semi-finals. Villarreal are much the same. The draw has been friendly, and like Arsenal fans, we'll be as delighted to draw you guys as you were for us. I think everyone wanted to avoid United. I do think we probably could have taken Roma, in fairness, but Arsenal were the preferred draw for everyone, I think, especially with the sort of history between the two sides, what went on in 2006, the sort of hunger for revenge. I know they've played since then once in the Europa League and lost, but it is a fascinating tie, and I think both sides, it comes down to the fact that both sides have got players who can really hurt each other. I think Saka and Pepe probably had looked to more than anyone else, given Lacazette's been injured, and I know he might come back. And then, Villarreal have sort of Gerard Moreno, we've got Paco Alcacer, Samu Chukwueze, dangerous front line, and a good defence as well. But I think as much as either side can hurt each other, I think it'll just come down to the fact it's a semi-final, it'll be a tight game, and probably over two legs it'll be separated by a goal, if you're lucky.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say I can completely understand why Villarreal would definitely fancy a tie against Arsenal. I don't think that's being disrespectful at all. If I was sat in your position, I think I would also fancy that tie. But yeah, Daniel, look, we spoke a bit about what Villarreal can do to hurt Arsenal. What way do you think Arsenal can get at Villarreal? What do you think is going to be our best way to get at them and exploit them? Would you be looking at maybe putting the pacey guys out on the wing, or who would you be looking if you had all those guys fit and available? Who would you be playing as your centre forward? Would you be going maybe Aubameyang, or would you stick with the likes of Lacazette, maybe Aubameyang out wide, or are you looking at some of the youngsters? Is it time for Martinelli?
I would definitely go with Lacazette. Listen, Lacazette's form recently has been second to none. I would go with. I'd definitely go with. It's a tricky one. We've got Bukayo Saka's got to be in there. I'm not sure I would go with Aubameyang on the left. I think I'd probably go with. I'd probably risk Pepe there. But yeah, I don't know. I think what we've got to do is we've just got to take the game to there. We've got to be really aggressive in our forward play and maybe try and get a few away goals. That's the key, because here's the thing, right? We at the Emirates, we know that we're not so good this season. So what we need to do is, and as bad as this sounds, we need to compensate for our mistakes at the Emirates, because let's be honest, we are going to make mistakes at the Emirates. So we need to kind of get a healthy lead in this tie away from home, so that if we do mess up in the Emirates, which is undoubtedly going to happen, then it's not going to damage us too much because we'll have a healthy lead. Because let's be honest, we are going to make mistakes. We are going to gift Villarreal some chances, and it's just where we are in terms of the tie. Do we have a healthy lead, or how we deal with those mistakes? Because we are going to do that. This is Arsenal. We like to gift the opposition chances. So that's the way I would look at this game.
Yeah, we're quite generous like that, especially this season. We're very, very generous. But there is one key factor that I thought about that may sway this tie in Arsenal's favour, and I don't know if a lot of people are on the same page as me here with this. But we do have an insider at Villarreal. We have got this man I'm going to throw up on screen here. We've got Agent Coquelin. Agent Coquelin playing for Villarreal. We know he loves Arsenal. He came up through the youth ranks at Arsenal, became a first teamer. For me, a guy who Look, he was decent. He was always decent. Again, I think maybe a little bit unfortunate. Not the greatest player in the world, but by no means the worst. Jamie, what have you made of Coquelin? Has he kind of kicked on at Villarreal? I know he went. It wasn't Valencia first and found his way to Villarreal. How's he been performing over there?
Yeah, to be honest, we haven't seen an awful lot of him. It's been difficult for him to get into a very good midfield. With Dani Parejo and Manu Trigueros in that midfield, it really doesn't leave many options for sort of rotation. Juan Foyth has sometimes played in a defensive role. It's a defensive midfield role. I think he's played a lot more in right back of late. But Coquelin really hasn't had much of an opportunity. He's coming down again. But again, they brought in Etienne Capoue, in a familiar name to sort of English and Tottenham fans in particular. But he came in January, and even he's had much more of an opportunity than Coquelin has. So in truth, he's sort of been more of a utility player and someone to draw upon if we need him. Not someone who sort of started and impressed or anything like that. It's just, very much a squad player, or at least at the moment.
So you're ruling out the possibility of Coquelin coming on and scoring the winning own goal for Arsenal. It's not
not likely.
Wishful thinking on my part. Wishful thinking. But lads, what we'll do is we will wrap it up now in the next couple of minutes. But just before I do, I just want to say a big thanks to everybody that has tuned in to watch. Everybody that continues listening on Spotify, and I got to keep plugging Spotify. Big shout out Spotify. Daniel Ek by Arsenal #Cronky out. You know what to do. So big plug there for Spotify. So he owes me now. He has to buy Arsenal. But big shout out everybody for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't hit the like button, please do. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Again, follow my guests. You can see the Twitter handles going along the bottom of the screen down there. So, follow the guys and say hello on Twitter. And lads, look, before we wrap it up, I want to get your predictions on how the first leg is going to go. I'm not going to ask who you reckon is going to go through because we need to see how the first game plays out. But Jamie, coming into the first leg, what are you predicting? What's your score predictions?
It's always tight, isn't it? It's always difficult. I think probably 1-0 Villarreal.
1-0 Villarreal, yeah. And Daniel, what are you thinking?
I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think a 1-1 draw would probably be a fair result. And then I think it's going to come down to the game at the Emirates. And I think I've just got this horrible feeling our poor form at home is going to come home to roost. But I hope not. I hope not. So, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, that's fair. I do worry. I really do worry if we're dependent on Arsenal to get a result at the Emirates. But at the same time, I don't know. Emery hasn't got too many results at the Emirates, so maybe stay true to form, and he won't get a good result at the Emirates that night. But I'm just going to be different. I'm going to say a 1-0 win for Arsenal. I'm just going to say we're going to nick it. But lads, look, big thanks for joining me today. So just before we wrap up, Jamie, do you want to give yourself a shout out there? Just let the people know about you're a journalist, you're an author, where they can check out your work.
Yeah, sure. You got the Twitter handle across the bottom there. That's all things sort of Spanish football. And then, like I said, I write for Football London. So some great Arsenal coverage on Football London, and be sure to check that out.
Yeah, brilliant. As I said, really appreciate you giving time here today. I know you're very, very busy. So thanks again. And Daniel, as I said earlier, if people for some reason don't know who you are, give yourself a plug there and let them know about this guest list you have coming up, because it's quite impressive.
Yeah. So you guys can follow me on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Is the Blind Gooner, I have some great guests on my channel this week. I know Anthony, you have been on there on Sunday, so that show is up there. If you've not checked that out, go and check that out. I also had on Monday I had Akil from the Arsenal Supporters Trust on there, and yesterday I had a show with Sophie from the Highbury squad, and then Friday I've got lead judges coming on. So yeah, do check that out. And I've also got some of my past guests as well. They'll be returning. So I've got interviews coming up with Kevin Campbell. And then I've also had Fabrizio Romano on. He's coming back on in the summer. So yeah, lots of great guests lined up. So yeah, please do head over and subscribe. Would really appreciate it. And we're 30 subs off 2,000. So yeah, we're hitting the next milestone.
Yeah, but look, hopefully we'll get you there now over the next couple of days. So like I said, if you're watching, please do subscribe to Daniel's channel and get him up to the 2,000. So yeah, lads, look, thanks again. Thanks everyone for watching, and look forward to the game tomorrow. So I'm sorry, Jamie, but I have to finish it with "Come on, you Gunners." So we'll see y'all later.